Welcome to the chat room, and I suppose having a chat in front of the smart wall with some of the founders of the smart partnership movement, it will make a smart chat. But here we are, and in a very short time, we are very happy that we have a number of smart partners coming to the hub following the long weekend that we had and following the live webcast on Friday. DrComiche is a continuity and a link within Southern Africa and CPTM, and I'd like DrComiche Motivasela to first join dialogue convener of Smart Partnership International Dialogue in Southern Africa and Africa, to introduce our very special, not guest, but special smart partner that is with us for a few hours. DrComiche.
We are hosting here at the hub DrComiche, whom I'm sure many of you know very well, because he's been one of the pillars of the movement. If any one of you was in Mozambique, the dialogue in Mozambique, you will have 2000. What was it? 2000, yes. You will have seen him in action, and he's one of our strong pillars, and we are pleased to welcome him to the hub today.
Okay. The Maputo 2000 came at a kind of very right time for the Smart Partnership movement. The 1995 CPTM launched in the Commonwealth by Common Sense of Government, and then having the first dialogue and coming up with the idea to have a dialogue Dr. Mahathir in Langkawi, was immediately the idea picked up by President Masire, by President Chisano in Southern Africa, President Joma and so on, President Museveni and a few others, and then the movement was initiated. But what one forgets about it is that it wasn't simply just the spirit of it. It was that it was manifested, or being seen as manifested, in very concrete kind of things that one could pick from one country to another and mold it in, yeah. So I remember that President Chisano was terribly keen on Vision 2016. He said, well, must have a Vision 2020 probably. Smart Partnership was very keen to be able to explain to Mozambicans before anybody can, what is this? Now you can translate that, and maybe you'll mention, but that didn't do the trick enough, because it's not enough to translate it. But it was to translate it into the interactions of that stage in '97, when the vision Botswana, President Botswana, with DrComiche, we were invited for you to launch a vision dialogue. All of that was Smart Partnership. And then based on that and a number of other things, by 2000, His Excellency said, well, I think probably I'm ready for all of you to come here. But what he didn't know, His Excellency, is that in February 2000, there was this big flood.
The big flood.
So, but we became so, all of us, adamant that that wouldn't be stopped. They wouldn't stop the dialogue in June or whatever it was. And His Excellency told President Masire again, come to me, we'll see, I'll show you where we put the tent. And it was where water was. And we'll never forget that, and that made the dialogue quite kind of incredible. And the dialogue in Maputo in 2000 crystallized, actually, even visually, what the smart partnership networks are. And I will never forget my problem, that is my chemistry background or engineering background, or whatever, coming from science, when the president instructed me that I have to bring something which he can explain in plain English, which I can't. In Mozambique terms, it has to be translated and they'll come back. What is this? Why is he so excited? So I brought in this carbon-60, the Bucky ball. And he explained in such a way that from there onwards, adding the globe, transparent globe, in the Bucky ball, it became the kind of the label of the smart partnership movement. So each and every dialogue or wherever you go, you see these Bucky balls and people look at it and remember yourself and remind yourself. So the spirit was quite, in Maputo, quite, in all sorts of ways, kind of, after that, translated or spread around up to Grenada. And I was just mentioning that, and I will get over this one, that General Tmina, but Ihsan from Jordan, and a number of private sector, they're trying to do as much as they can for trying to mobilize, to minimize the kind of disaster of the recovery from the flood. So there was this missing generation spirit that even today after 15 years stays with us. Not only at the hub through this picture, yeah, but it went to Grenada, and probably if we have time I'll mention, and it stays with us all the time, what is possible in a resilient movement. So where are we today? Particularly in the Mozambique, in the context of Africa, with African Union taking place, summit by the end of this week. And there are a lot of main things, blue economy in Africa, 2063 vision of Africa, but of course the national context matters most. To make sure that the African Union or within the Commonwealth. So if you were to tell us a little bit about Mozambique and how smart partnership could practice, yeah, I mean, we hear many things about Mozambique.
Okay, thank you very much, Michaela, and I'm happy also to see here DrComiche. The smart partnership movement is really part of our life. You mentioned 2000, but before that we had to prepare the smart partnership dialogue which took place in 2000. We start with trying to understand what the smart partnership is about. And we had a dialogue, not only Maputo internal dialogue, but also we went to the central part of Mozambique. I recall that one of the provinces was Tete, and we went also to the north of Mozambique, Nampula and La Paz, in order to let people understand what smart partnership about and how they could participate. So when we reached the year 2000, it was really everybody, those Mozambicans who participated, it was nothing new for them. And it was possible to participate in the dialogue, giving their inputs. But what to me is more important is that after 2000, then we organized ourselves in order to define our agenda for next 20 years. We thought that would be a vision. Okay, we need to have a vision. And the initiative, it's clear, was from President Chisano. But as head of state, he could not be part. And so we had to organize ourselves with a representative for different political parties.
Why do you think he could not be part? Because that's
because that will come as something from the government. And we wanted to have different political parties, and also from civil society, the cooperatives, private sector, religious people, academics, and so on. And it was possible to join a group where I could say that in order to write the first page, we took almost 1 month. Because everybody was suspicious. I'm representing Frelimo. But other representatives and other political parties. And so Massimo Diaz was representing Bonamo, and so. And everything I used to say, why has to be like that? And try to argue around issues which really were not appropriate in order to create basis for dialogue. It took time so that we could trust each other. The issue of confidence, trust, is really very, very important. After that, we had the first page and other pages of the vision came. But it was not only among ourselves, because we start with nothing written. We, in Portuguese, página em branco, blank page.
Blank page.
A blank page. But it was interesting because we had to travel, visiting different provinces, and within the province, districts. In each district you have to meet with the government, but essentially with civil society organizations and with the different groups. How to say, those who work in agriculture or farmers, others who work in different industries, as well as civil servants and so on. When we ask even a farmer, what you want, what is your vision on what Mozambique has to be within 20 years, they have an answer. Issues related with we want to live in peace and poverty. We have to have enough schools, health facilities, and so on. Everywhere you could not find any Mozambican who had no dream on what could be what was his aim for.
How do you call dream?
A dream, sonho.
Sonho.
Yeah.
I thought it was attached to partially intelligence. I don't know if it worked.
And what happened is that starting 2001, when we start working together, but 2 years later, was 2003, we had already what we call Agenda 2020. But we thought that it's important to say that after publishing, we had to hear Frelimo Party. And we called President Chisano. And we called also Mr. Gebuza, because Gebuza at that time was Secretary of Frelimo. He came with some members of Frelimo Secretariat, and we said what was our vision, and we gave them.
When we say our vision, that was of the group.
But there was the group, but not represented only the group, because it was a vision of Mozambicans. And then comment here and there, and they saying, okay, really, it's also a vision. And we called Mr. Nakama. Renamo. He came with members of his staff, and he said, oh yes, you're open, this is really our vision. And after having Agenda 2020, we decided to submit to the Parliament. And the Parliament analyzed and approved a resolution at the end of 2003, I think it was December. After that, agenda was for everybody. And what we said that every political parties were free in order to use that agenda for preparing their manifesto.
That's
it happened that 2003, I was called by my political party, Frelimo, to run for mayor of Maputo.
Yes.
And I used the Agenda 2020 in order to prepare my manifesto. And 2004, I was elected as mayor of Maputo. But 2004 also we had to prepare the general election, presidential and legislative. And Frelimo used this Agenda 20 as part of inspiring for preparing the manifesto. And that was the base in order to prepare the 5 years program of Frelimo, 95-99. And it was also based in order to prepare the program of Frelimo for 2014. And last year we had general elections.
Yes.
And we also used the agenda. But the agenda, after being reviewed, because what happened, 10 years later, on 2013, then we realized that we had to celebrate 10 years of Agenda 2020. But we found that there are new issues to be considered. Saw that the situations we have to taking the situation that Mozambique was still a poor country. There are issues which small medium size enterprise were still not having the same what we expected.
They didn't resonate.
And we saw that we have natural resources.
Yes.
That's
coal in Tete province, hydrocarbons in Rovuma basin, and all issues were not part of what
of the vision.
Of the vision, and
aspirations.
We have to consider that. And during the year 2013, we worked in order to review the Agenda 2020, and it was based on that. It's not a new agenda; it's the agenda, but with the additional inputs.
That's a very important thing.
And we use this Agenda 2020 in order to prepare the manifesto for Frelimo for the elections which took place 2014. And so, it was such that Frelimo won elections, and we have a new president called Felipe he was inspired also in this Agenda 2020. So this
but
is
2020, we are in 15.
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah, but we need to consider the time we design the agenda. But what will happen after that is...
I'm just trying, because you've just been through this 2020 kind of review, but yeah. I mean, I'm sure people thought, well, exactly as so many years ago, when was ever get about the vision, integrating resources and peace and all the rest of it, they automatically thought beyond 2020, but they didn't say it. Because, you know, if I'm, as I said, I'm about 30 years old, and you ask me what's my vision, it will be well beyond the next 5 years.
Certainly.
So the question was, in the smart partnership movement, we have this issue now to try to demystify the idea that 2020 or 2016 or whatever it is a deadline which I don't know what will happen after. It's simply a point of reference, I suppose. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a point of reference because even when I say the Agenda 2020, we know that issues related with the mineral resources. So we are going to have some results related with hydrocarbons, namely natural liquefied gas, only starting 2019, 2020. So, but we could not, as the base was that agenda.
In 2000.
In 2001, 2003, when it was already published, we need to take this as a reference. But the vision is far beyond 2020.
I suppose it's very visible in what you explained, very visible, and you've been involved both politically and otherwise for so many years. That
the problem is that, you know, in countries like mine, in order to try to think on something which
you don't quite know
what is going to happen, it's not easy. When I was made,
yes, I remember
I had a program Putu, which was a program for 10 years. And it was very hard to sell this.
Because people wanted something in the market, I remember.
Why?
Yeah.
10 years?
Well, I know.
You want to remain as a mayor for 10 years? No, it's not there. It's that infrastructure development takes time. And we need to decide now and then to give steps in order to solve the problems of the people. Only later on, everybody understood the problem is there. But it's good to understand that talking with people at different levels, it's not easy in order to say that it's something which will happen within 20-25 years.
Actually, it's even more difficult today. Because in 2000 or before, you said there were not these channels and technologies which are available for everybody in being interested in instant. You are able instantly to send a message. You have a mobile. So when you try to say 2020 or whatever, it's kind of, you can't send an SMS from 2020. So, you know, there are some big issues actually related to the impact of the instancy, of the real time particularly. So if the real, I know that this has some technology embedded in it, for instance, which is developing in the next 20 years. So it's built into the real time now, this second, not today, the long term. So that's a completely different game.
Yeah, it is.
So this is what probably has since we came to you and you in Mozambique, both as a mayor, but in addition to innovation movement and all sorts of things that took place, and particularly vision, a number of other countries, Uganda, Botswana continued, St. Lucia, Swaziland, Lesotho, they are kind of, South Africa, when His Excellency President invited us there, the main focus was their national development plan for 5 years, and they developed for about so many years, would be a vision. So the question is, would the shortness of 5-year national development plan be still satisfactory for people to feel that in the next 5 years, by the way of a vision that I'm expressing, I get something? And it isn't, because you have to, the instancy, so it should be like a national plan for an instant, immediately.
You know, Michaela, 5 years plans are very important to manifest, because we have our 5-year plans, which is now from 2015 to 2019. We have the main priorities. Phase 1 is strengthen national unity, peace, and sovereignty. The second one is related with human and capacity building. Other one is related with social and human development. And the fourth one is related with development of social and economic infrastructures. And the last one is related with issues related with natural resources, sustainability. Everything is out in a competitive world where we are. But the population, those who, when we ran elections, we made promise. Each year, they want to see concrete things. If the school is there, the hospital is there, the road is there, the bridge is there, and how the economic activity is improving, education, and everything which is related with the current life, and how the poverty reduction is taking place, and so on. So to see that the quality of life, there are improvements, and we are accountable to our people in such a way that the head of state, he goes to each province in order to in order to go there and to, in this case, the new president, he is in different provinces, in first in order to thank for works, and then to send it to, we know what your priorities, and mention some of the priorities, and reforming that during the next 5 years,
it is almost like an instant now.
That he will fulfill what he promised. But at this stage, also he gets additional impulse. He gets additional impulse, and so, and because people, they want the solution, immediate solution for problems which are taking place. You say, we know you promised, but there is at the present moment that these and those issues which are related with daily life, schools, electrical power, health facilities, and other things related with, and even the way they see that the improvements could take place in a quicker way. So that is why I say that a 5-year program is important. But every year we have to have our economic and social plan as well as the annual budget, and to be accountable to the people, not only the government, because it's not only the president and the members of the cabinet, and we as parliamentarians, we have to oversight the government on the fulfillment of the program and of each economic.
It's very interesting to see Swaziland, how they picked that up. Their vision is being kind of monitored, so to speak, from within the parliamentarians, while some of the smart partners, even the chief of the speaker, was for quite a long while Prince Guduza, and he was, but when we went about a year ago, when they were preparing the dialogue, and went to the parliament during the session, the chiefs, traditional chiefs, and Prince Guduza was no more Speaker of the House. They continued, and the Smart Partnership Hub was supporting His Majesty and in the government, and they've got a line in the budget, and they had to be there to answer.
Yes.
Oh, so it was quite impressive that.
We do that. Myself, I'm MP, and I was elected in Mali province, and heading the, I don't know, it is a caucus of MPs in Yambane province. After the session, I had to fly to Yambane to visit different districts and to report to them what are the main issues which were discussed during the session, namely the approval of the 5 years program, the economic and social plan for 2015, and also the budget, the contents of the issues, and they have a question to make in order to say that, okay, but we want you to represent us and to take this and that message,
actually,
and to solve the problems.
This is where, isn't it, the smart partnership engagement continues.
Yeah, it continues.
And this is the thing, so it's very difficult for those who did not quite have been caught into this process at whatever level to understand, unless to understand why it's useful. And in fact, last year, and as
but this is a practice, not theory.
No, it is real. It's real.
Something very real.
It's real. I mean, this is what we realized lately, and that we are involved in very real things, and we knew that. And you take a lot of responsibility because you're involved in people's life. So that is something that within the movement is not enough, there are not enough words to explain that this is not an interaction between kind of that university or that World Bank or our projects. No, it's part and parcel of real things. And that's a hell of a responsibility. And accountability you have. Because if you mess around, who are you to mess around? And big impact. So we realize that in Uganda lately, even in Tanzania, quite a lot. But in South Africa, and we still hope we'll have the dialogue one day. But that is actually one of the main the preoccupation in Mozambique, which you raised, and thank you for that. Is the main preoccupation actually at the moment. That
particularly this issue about the 2020,
2016 or 20.
It's not like the end of it.
It's not like a plan.
It is not like a yes. It is just a point in your development where you want to you want to be, but it is not like the end. You continue thereafter. And it is the same vision, like when you were saying that you are reviewing your 2020, 2013, but not to change it, but to refine it, to take into account new...
Very inspiring.
Exactly, yeah, that is it.
And how could you not be inspired about this?
What was important also is that we had new members, new councillors.
Yes.
Some who participated in 2003 died. But it was the need in order to renew and to have
the engagement of
young people.
Yes.
There's a young generation.
Exactly.
And they're part also academics and so on. And they came with the new inputs.
That's it. But it's not only the... Is there engagement? If you are caught into this thing, then they don't feel left out.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, there is very smart 29ers again, and parliamentarians, but came in quite relevant in the last 2 years in the process. But there is a realization that the technologies which give an immediate, instant possibility or likelihood to change and to leverage to us or disrupt, however you call it, or produce havoc with cybersecurity type of impact or whatever. Those technologies need to be identified because or observed that they are already with people without any decision. So how the civil service or how the government will function, and to whom will they be accountable except to themselves? They will be on their own if they don't engage in the way that they...
Yeah, we are... the issue of technology development, it's something which we consider as important in order to have a Ministry for Science and Technology. And there are some steps even in this direction. But what's important is the new generation, how they deal with these issues.
I mean, they adopt that without a Ministry for Science.
Well, there is out of that.
Go to financial inclusion. I mean.
And it's really issues related with innovation and it's something
transformation.
Transformation. But we are giving the first steps in this direction. But with positive results, I know that we need to learn a lot and to invest much more. But initiatives which happen, some are young students who went abroad and came back with new ideas and developing these new technologies is something which I think that will help us in order to...
But in Mozambique, having these natural resources as a kind of almost like a collateral for thinking big, it might be that Ian Verloop from Holland, I was talking to him this morning, I called the coma, saying that you'll be around here. And of course, natural resources of one kind or another in Mozambique attracted the attention of big companies, probably Shell too. And the idea of when you have the possibility of this financial kind of likelihood, revenue coming from that, makes one thinking big. Now, when he came, made a contribution in December here, Yen, produce something, think smaller. Now, when he said smaller, and the way I interpret it, it didn't mean smaller in sense of intermediate or go back to water pumps. No. The bigger you have, the smaller you could think. Because with, again, some of these technologies available, which are invisible, you could actually penetrate the entire processes in very big way, with a very small, and that he said is smart. So that's my message from him. But he's available for any brainstorm himself. Donald O'Neill and all those who have been made themselves available to CPDM fellows in Uganda and in Tanzania on how to look at natural resources in such a way that, you know, all this curse. Of course, you have to look to DrComiche. He's coming from Botswana. He knew how to look at, but they learned how to understand.
We have to learn from Botswana.
How nations succeed.
This is a very, very important issue. But,
yes, it's probably that.
We know that we have natural resources.
Yeah.
And there are companies in coal mining and now in hydrocarbons. And here on natural gas is where really a change will take place, but we are in process of negotiation. We have to prepare legislation. Last year was crucial in order to finalize the laws and decrees which were necessary in order to have the companies there and to finalize contracts and so on. But within my political party, which is very, it's leading the government, we say that we continue to have agriculture as a base for the development of Mozambique. It's agriculture.
That's it.
Yes.
And naturally, we have to use our resources so that we could fight poverty and to develop our country and so on. But here, we need to take into account that we have other resources like energy, which most of the energy we sell to neighboring countries. But we need to use those the energy for development of our industries. And natural gas, we are going to, starting 2019, 2020, we're going to export liquefied natural gas. But we think that part of this natural gas we have to use internally also in order to develop industry and so on.
And to support agriculture, products.
Yeah, that's right. So we try people to understand that we are not yet a rich country. It's something which will come. Now we still have to rely upon what is in hands of the people.
And to strengthen that, to build on that.
But even in the future, we could not eat natural gas, we could not eat coal and so on. And as in Africa, Mozambique has a potential to produce cereals and to export cereals and not to rely upon any imports of food and raw materials and so on. We have also raw materials for industry and so on. So this is the way we see.
So, as we were just mentioning, the last 1 year, in particular since Dar es Salaam, all these new dimensions of visions as molded in developments in different countries are taking place, and the smart partnership movement or the smart partnership practice is again very much appealed to, simply because you have new people, the younger generation, so to speak, so-called smart 29ers, but the smart 29ers, because they're young, and we liked the idea that there is a labor. Smart 29ers, not just smart 29ers because they are young. They have a completely different function, a very serious function into the entire thing. We need to go beyond just the smart partners links that we identified and brought them in as missing links about 20 years ago. We need to give them a much more clearer function alongside the other. So parliamentarians the same and so on, because of particular processes of the vision. And within those vision processes, I mean, if there is any other place where one could immediately relate to limitless opportunities, it's Mozambique. All what you're talking about is about limitless. So smart partnership is a manifesto which in itself has to kind of embed this new development. So we do need the movement to meet, the dialogues to continue. And well, I thought we'd like to thank you very much. You'll miss the plane if we keep you more to the hub, and then you won't be able to be back. And again, limitless opportunities to yourself, the manifesto, and one could build up on this think smaller, that think smarter, and he says think smaller is the next big idea, but think smarter is even beyond that. So,
you know that I used to disseminate
we
the main
know
contents.
Yes, continuously we add to it, and it's very difficult for people to understand. Is this a book? Because there are repetitions said in different ways. Like now, we could pick up a number of things that you mentioned to be picked up.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That's very good.
Parceria intelligente is a
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
DrComiche. Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.